Hey, Rob from Order 42 here, and today we're going to be talking about The Tomorrow War. That's right, the new Chris Pratt movie, only available on Amazon Prime. So, is it worth it? Sure, maybe. Let's talk about it. Directed by Chris McKay and available exclusively on Amazon Prime, The Tomorrow War tells the story of a global war against a deadly alien species. The only hope for survival is for soldiers and civilians from the present to be transported to the future and join the fight. The movie stars Chris Pratt, Yvonne Strahovski, J.K. Simmons, Betty Gilpin, Sam Richardson, and Edwin Hodge. So, The Tomorrow War, yes, it's a thing. It sure is. And it's one of those movies where you can't really fault the acting at all. I think the acting across the board is really really well done. Even if some of the casting choices are a bit, I would say, odd, and even some of the things that the actors have to do is a bit odd. Some of the humor choices are a little out of place. Even if the acting is good, though, the characterizations themselves are very light. I mean, almost one note characters almost across the board. And that's kind of a problem. There's really no depth here. After I watched the movie, I saw some criticisms online about, the CG, that the CG actually got worse as the movie went along. And I don't agree. I think the CG was perfectly fine. In fact, there are some absolutely amazing looking shots in this movie, and I actually really enjoyed watching it. One of my favorite, I don't know if it's a trope, I don't know if it's just a thing, but one of my favorite shots is when you've got, jets flying around or anything flying, there's this point of view shot that they usually do, like on the side of the cockpit or something like that. Awesome. And they do a few of them in this movie, and they're really really cool. So like I said, cinematography, CG, I thought it was great. Story wise, I think the setup is a really cool idea, but it's one of those movies where the setup is really just to get you to the action scenes. It's more in the vein of Independence Day, where there's not really a whole lot of, there's no depth to that movie. There's not a whole lot of, in fact, I would even say that there's more characterization in that movie than there is in the Tomorrow War. I think that's my biggest disappointment with it, is that I kind of feel like there's this cool sci-fi idea there, and even some of the sort of throwaway elements, it could have been awesome, but there's just no depth, and there's nothing paid attention to that. It's just like, hey, yeah, the aliens are here, and they've been doing this and all this, and it's really cool. And oh, well, what does that mean? No, never mind. Here's an action scene. It's really just, it's taking all of that and just saying, you know what, we're gonna make a no holds barred adrenaline fueled thrill ride, and that's what we're doing. I also think that in general, there's this thing. I don't know if it's just something that I'm paying more attention to. I don't know, but it seems like there's a lot of connective tissue just being removed, and it's mostly things that get you from this scene to this scene. Sometimes there's these scenes butt up against each other, and they're a bit jarring. They're like, okay, we're gonna go do this thing. Are we gonna prepare for it? Nope. Okay, here we are. And it's just like, oh, okay, we're already there. No planning, no, okay. And that's one of those things that just kind of takes you out of the movie for a minute. Unfortunately, I don't think I can talk about the movie anymore without going into spoilers. So for those of you who do want to see the movie, I would say it's recommended. I mean, I would give it 3 stars. It's really a lot like Independence Day in that the kind of feel and everything. And if you're just ready to shut off your brain and be entertained for a couple hours, it doesn't disappoint. So from here on, we are going to talk into some spoiler stuff. And just because some of it is kind of funny and some of it is kind of weird, and I wanted to talk about it. So if you haven't seen the movie and you do want to see it, you might want to turn this off just so nothing is ruined for you. But yeah, from here on, spoiler territory. So Pratt's future daughter, right, played by Yvonne Strahovski, she basically tells him about how he leaves them. He leaves, his wife and daughter just mere years after getting back. And yeah, it's one of those things where you're like, okay, well, of course that's not going to happen going forward. But for some reason, I kept thinking in my head that every time there was a fight or anything, he'd go, is this the thing? Is this the thing that made me leave you? One of the things in the movie too, that they had to limit the time travel, right? You couldn't just travel to any point in time. It was basically, so if it's 2021 and 2051, as time goes on in 2021, it's also going in, so like when you jump, you're basically jumping to the same time plus however much. Basically, they limited it so you can just go anywhere, right? But what that did is that it made for this sort of butting up against, like I said, where it's like, oh, there's no time for training. We're just gonna throw you guys into the mix and see how it goes. It's one of those things that was a little bit frustrating for me. One of the things that really bothered me, and it just stuck out to me like a sore thumb while I'm watching it, is so wait a minute. This toxin is really important to get from the future to bring back so that you can stop the thing from ever happening, right? But we're just going to go in and use it on like four or five, six of them and then just blow up the ship. That's, I mean, if the blowing of the ship worked for the rest of them, I don't understand why they didn't just blow the thing up to begin with, and pretty tidy, and yeah, we'll be home for dinner. I mean, I don't understand. And as much as I enjoyed Sam Richardson's performance, right? He seems like a really really likable guy. The problem is I don't understand why he was even in the movie. He didn't really do anything like at all in the movie. He could have been completely taken out of the movie and nothing really would have changed. And then on top of that, how did he end up next to them at the end of the movie? He just shows up for like a joke. I don't get it. Like how did he even get there? Now look, it may sound like I'm kind of dogging on the movie a little bit. It's ridiculous. Let's be honest. It's a goofy just to have a good time. And for some reason, I was okay with that. There's been a lot of movies like this where, there's not a whole lot of depth and it's kind of goofy and kind of silly, but you just kind of go with it. For some reason, I don't know if it was Chris Pratt's performance or if it was just the overall because I thought it looked cool, but I actually had a really good time with this, and like I said, I'd give it 3 stars. I think it's recommended. I assume that if you're watching to this point, you've already seen the movie because I already gave away a bunch of stuff, but anyway, yeah, I was kind of happy with it. So, The Tomorrow War. Did you see this movie? Did you like it? What did you think of it? Are you for some reason still watching after I said there were spoilers and now you're going to go ahead and watch it? Let me know down below what you think of it. And thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you on the next one.